then you would actually think that I ought to put an engineer in charge of that. And Bitcoin's the first time when anybody figured out how to engineer a monetary system, and Satoshi is an engineer, right? I mean, a multifaceted engineer that had a pretty good familiarity, not just with economics and politics, but had a good familiarity with mechanical engineering and electrical engineering and computer science and cybernetics systems and servo mechanisms and stability and feedback. And first order stability is something that you absolutely have to understand if you're an aeronautical engineer. When you design an airplane, if it's stable, it means when the plane tilts 10 degrees to the left, the lift on the wing builds up to bring the airplane back to center. And if it's stable, it'll tend to fly true and upright. And if it's unstable, when it tilts 10 degrees to the left, it'll tend to tilt 20 degrees more to the left, and then it'll just flip and go into a spiral, a death spiral, and you'll crash into the ground, you'll die. And so lack of stability typically means the plane crashes and burns. Yeah, well, I mean, when I first started thinking about money as an energy system and money as a socio-political economic form of energy, then it just led me to ask the question, what were the formative energy systems of the human race in the Paleolithic era? So I went back 100,000 years and I said, what elevated humanity? And it's not that hard, right? It's like fire. We've got Prometheus in our mythology, and the whole point of fire is harnessing and channeling chemical energy and converting a log into heat or into light is a pretty good trick. And cooking food or pre-digesting food using a wooden log is another pretty good trick. And I was focused on that because it's so intricately interrelated with our evolutionary biology, and there's so many people with the thesis that humanity would never have emerged if we didn't actually master fire, because we couldn't digest enough food and do it quick enough in order to divert energy to our brains. And so, if you don't have fire, you're a horse or something, or a cow, and you're just eating all day long, but you're never going to get that smart. I think the critical idea there is that it's just very difficult for us to rise above any creature that that has sharper fangs than us. And if someone's bigger or stronger or tougher than us, you have to stand off from a distance in order to beat them. So whoever masters missiles wins. They've got the long reach. Not only can you actually stand back 100 feet and blast something, but you can also stand up 30 feet on a cliff and blast them. So it's a pretty good evolutionary trait to master the ability to direct an energy weapon uh, in a distance, and it's pretty obvious today, right? I mean, someone's got a gun and you've got a knife, you're going to lose, and if they've got a rifle and you've got a pistol, you're going to lose, and if they've got artillery and you've got a rifle, you're going to lose. And ultimately, someone that can drop something from 50,000 feet above you on your head is going to win. So missiles turn out to be pretty critical to advance as well, of humanity over creatures. And then eventually, the most sophisticated tribe that mastered the most sophisticated missiles dominates the less sophisticated tribe. And that's continued to this day with ICBMs and even the Star Wars initiative that we credit for toppling the Soviet Empire was either mastering the ability to fling a missile or mastering the ability to knock a missile out of the sky that someone else flung at you. I mean, fundamentally, the difference between monetary networks and sanitation, water networks or missile networks or fire furnaces is that you can't cheat Mother Nature. So if you create an aqueduct system and you put a leak in it, then eventually you get half as much water. And if the leak's enough, you get no water. And if you can't move the water, the city of 50,000 people has enough water for 5,000 people, and 45,000 people die, and that's it. And the people figure out that the mayor of the town screwed up the aqueduct when they all can't drink anything and they die, right? And the same is true. You screw up your furnace and it burns your house down, or you screw up your furnace and the fire goes out and you freeze to death, right? No cheating on that, right? It's pretty obvious, and it's not a political issue. Like, nobody says it's not fair that the fire went out, or it's not fair that the cistern didn't capture water. And they don't, when someone shoots you in the face with a missile or throws a bullet, at you from a sling, and you're there bleeding, no one says, that's not fair, right? I mean, the truth is the lead bullet flies through the atmosphere and they either hit you or they don't. Buildings, and they create weapons, and they hire mercenaries, or they pay soldiers, and then you defend yourself. And over time, you expand as long as the society is not corrupt. When the political system is not corrupted, when the monetary system is not corrupted, and everybody feels it's fair and equitable, that's an incentive for people to fight to defend their home because they appreciate it and they love it. And it's an incentive for business people to work hard because they know they'll be fairly rewarded. So the city or the city state grows, and it keeps expanding until eventually the son or the grandson or the 13th successor to the virtuous king takes over, gets lazy, debases the money, cuts the amount of gold in the coinage by 30% and then by 50%. And as they cut and debase the currency, people start to lose faith in the ruler and lose faith in the economic system. And then they start to cheat, and or people don't want to defend it, and eventually the mercenaries want to be paid more, and so taxes have to go up and the coinage has to get debased, and eventually people lose faith in the entire system, and along comes a younger, hungrier, more virtuous group of people that aren't so fat, dumb, and happy. And in money, well, it'll fly, and you can do irrational things if you have raw power for a period of time. I mean, Nero could act like Nero for about 4 years, and eventually the economy collapsed and he got murdered, and Caligula did the same thing. So, in the extreme cases, you can be literally, crazy, nuts, and suspend the laws of everything for anywhere from a number of months to a number of years. But eventually, the economy collapses, the society collapses, people lose faith in you. You know, over the midterm, typically 10 to 20 years will do you in. Zimbabwe's been getting driven into the ground for about 40 or 50 years. I mean, you can't do it for 100 years without everybody dying or getting murdered or collapsing the society. But you can certainly corrupt a monetary system with political meddling, over some number of years. I guess when you get a strong enough leader, they normally crash their money supply in about 20 years. And if you're lucky, if you're the world reserve currency or the world leader, maybe you'll last 100, 200 years.